Good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies, germs, and everyone in between. This is Discussions at Brunch. Dylan, how you feeling, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Just still waking up a little bit. I think the bacon I ate this morning kind of made me a little sleepy, but doing
Hmm,
all right. Okay. How are
that
you doing since your surgery, your gallbladder is no longer a part of you anymore?
I removed some toxicity out of my life. It's like a bad significant other. You just feel like a weight has lifted off you. For me, it's about a pound. Um,
Mm.
but no, I've been doing good, eating lots of food. It's been fantastic. Since our coffee talk, I've had chicken nuggets, a rodeo chicken sandwich, or a junior rodeo chicken sandwich from Burger King, quarter pounder from McDonald's, beefaroni. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
All act like we
Very.
didn't stay up all night playing video games. So, hey, some of us are just built different, Rich. You gotta get on our level, dude. Maybe if you didn't kill your kidneys 24/7, you know what I'm saying, my guy? Anything spicy yet? I plan on adding spice probably next week. I'm the furthest I've gotten in the spice is black pepper, which was something I couldn't even eat before. So, um, you know, that's exciting. I've got all these flipping hot sauces in my fridge that I need to consume. Um, I'm really excited to get back into eating hot wings.
Mm.
Love hot wings.
Yeah, I need to go to Wings, etc., and get some
Oh,
mango habanero.
yeah, dude. That's like one of the mango habanero, and then like just their like hot buffalo sauce. Like I love the
Mm.
taste of buffalo sauce, dude.
Yeah, they got some good stuff at Wings, etc. I'm
Hmm.
glad that place came around.
Yeah, to me, significantly better than Buffalo Wild Wings on price. I'd have to say.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, but yeah, other than that, if I sneeze, that's really painful. Or if I like have a good belly laugh, um, pretty painful. But I get through it because I'm a big boy and
And
I
he's,
I don't like taking my pain meds. So you know.
just grit your teeth until they grind down to little stubs,
Mm.
and you'll be fine. Just always have a stick in your mouth to bite down on.
Yeah, I've got my bandana right next to me from last night, so no big
I,
deal.
I had a line on my forehead from where I was wearing that bandana.
Yeah, same. It's a little tight. For anyone who's not part of the Discord, last night was Weeb night. Arbitrarily, it was randomly decided the day of. But some of us got into the VC last night, put on some bandanas, some Naruto headbands. We were iced up and dripped out. We were looking good. And then we played some Killing Floor 2 for
Mm.
a decent amount of time once we got everybody into the game. It took a little bit, but that's the developer's fault, not ours. Loser night, Tickus, you're just mad that you didn't have the game installed.
It's a fun game. You don't get to play it too often, but it's always fun to come back to.
Tonight is go to sleep on time Saturday. Wrong. Tonight is discussions at brunch reaction videos. That's what we're doing tonight. We're going to be reacting to YouTube videos, so, you know, that's what we got planned. It's going to be hype. But let's get on to the topic. What are we talking about today, Dylan?
We're talking about a classic, well, not so classic, I guess. Maybe classic if you consider the 2010s classic. But we're talking about survival games.
Woo!
Games where you run around, get resources, kind of build up from nothing. Those types of games.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with an oldie known as Minecraft.
Hmm.
Uh,
It it honestly it is. It's getting up there in years. It's over a decade old now. So
yeah, but survival games. It's a wide genre. There's different types of survival games, but the ones that we're going to be focusing on today are mostly the ones like where you kind of have to do some crafting,
hmm.
base building, that sort of thing. And then the story is kind of secondary.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a
You're Earth's only fan of Dead Island. Uh, Dead Island was a zombie game, right? That's the one like you go on a vacation and like crap, there's zombies here. Everyone's zombified and you do
yeah.
junk like that.
The only thing I remember that recent, or fairly recent Dead Island. I think it was Dead Island.
Dead
Uh,
Island Redemption.
commercial.
Oh, the
Yeah.
commercial. I thought you were talking about the game. It's like the
No,
top-down survival.
no. The like there was a commercial where this guy's like jogging along the beach and like he becomes a zombie as he's jogging.
Hmm.
I think that's a commercial for Dead Island.
I wouldn't know.
I
Never
don't
seen that
remember.
commercial.
I it's kind of old now. Yeah, for Dead Island 2. Yeah, it's that's all I remember from Dead Island because I never played any of the games. I remember
I
a lot of people talking about them though.
Yeah, I remember watching people play it. And it doesn't look like a terrible game, but I don't know. It just didn't seem. Most of the time when I see like survival games like that, it just doesn't truly appeal to me. For whatever reason, I don't know, but the gameplay loop is just kind of weird.
I feel like survival games that focused on surviving in like a zombies apocalypse were like huge during the 2010s, later half of the 2010s, I think, because there were a lot. There was like Z Day, Project Zomboid, games
Mm.
like that.
I know the zombie survival mobile games were all over the place for the longest time, and still are actually. Now that I think about it, because like they're all based off like The Walking Dead. It's like, oh, you're at a prison and you improve the imprisoned's defenses and you
Mhm.
defend waves of zombie. Yeah, not real survival games, but prototype for Dying Light. I've never played Dying Light. I think the closest thing to Dead Island slash Dying Light that I've ever played is Miscreated, and that game is pretty mid in my opinion. Um, of the Dead movies got me hooked on that genre. Yeah, yeah. I mean, zombie games are fun. Like if they're
Mhm.
done right, I just feel like I think survival games in general are not done well.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to really nail down that form because there's just so many survival games out there, and some of them go a little too hard on the survival mechanics, and some of them are a little too easy, I
Mm.
think, to be fun. So it's kind of hard to nail down, really.
Yeah, Minecraft is like a sandbox game. Like that's what it started off as, but then like as they started adding story to it and all that good jazz, it became more of a survival game. And I feel like Minecraft, even though it's like pretty basic, it's like an easy way to get into the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Do you want to? I'm looking at our itinerary here. I just put this list of games that we should talk about. I don't care what we talk about them in any order, but do you want to jump right into like the hot game right now?
The hot game, the new hotness
That's
in the
yeah,
survival game genre.
that's right.
Uh, so for those of you who don't know, there's a new survival game out. It's a sequel to a very popular survival game called Sons of the Forest. It's a sequel to The Forest, and I remember when The Forest like reached um, its like completed state, and you went out and a group of dads rescuing their son.
Hmm.
It was it's a very fun game. Very it's not. There's not like a crazy amount to it, honestly, like once you get down to it. But it was pretty fun though. Lots of stuff to explore. And Sons of the Forest is no different. There's even more to it. I think the biggest like inclusion to that game is probably the fact that you have like NPCs that help you out. So
Mm.
like right when you first start, you get this one guy who's part of your team that went to the island, and he's deaf because his eardrums ruptured or whatever.
Yep.
So you just give him like little sticky notes to tell him what to do, so he can go chop down a forest for you or whatever, which is super nice because some of the structures take an insane amount of wood to build. I think the first house I built in that game was probably 200 logs or some outrageous
Mhm.
amount like that. It it took forever, and oh yeah, making him get fish, that is definitely his most useful thing. I think he uh he goes and gets fish constantly, like every 2 minutes he comes back with another fish. You just have a pile of rotting fish in your base.
Hmm.
It's great. And yeah, it's pretty fun. I think they definitely did a good job of taking the base formula of the forest and kind of improving on it a bit. It's still like a buggy mess though. I don't know how many times I've had logs just disappear under the map because Kelvin, the follower, just walked over them and they just glitched into the back rooms. So it's great. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I It's been a while since I played The Forest, and it's good to get back in it. It's a beautiful game too. Graphically, it's pretty nice looking. Um, and there's a lot more enemy variety too, I think, which is nice. But it's still very early in development though, so there's not a crazy amount to it. It's just fun to play every now and then.
I need to develop a quick hotkey for whenever I'm about to drop a hot take. Because this is probably going to be a hot take. I have yet to play the Sons of the Forest. I've never played the Forest. The game didn't look like my sort of genre. But you know, I do research. Before I buy a game to figure out if I'm going to like it. And so earlier, I watched a couple of videos on the Forest gameplay and stuff like that, story. And I'm going to be honest, the Forest looks like a mess. Sorry, Sons of the Forest looks like a mess. Um, they to touch on like one thing, the resource management is stupid expensive. It should not take 200 logs to build a tiny ass little shelter, right? Like unless you're building like a genuine log house, like huge, like you're going to stay in that. The whole point is to get off the island, right? So you build this house and you stay in it maybe one night before you start exploring and just bring a tent around with you everywhere. Like that doesn't seem like that's a very good design. Um the bugs you mentioned, the game is bugged out.
Mm.
It's tweaked. Um and like I get it. It's early access. But what a lot of people forget to mention is that the game was only announced as it's going to be early access a month before it was announced that it was going to be released as a full game. The studio delayed the game, what, 3 times, saying that, oh, we'll release it as a full game. And then a month before it's supposed to come out as a full game, they're like, actually, we're going to drop this off as early access. That way we can get feedback. And in reality, what they've done is that they're making people pay $30 to be beta testers. Right? That's in reality, that's what they're doing. And so you're getting an unfinished game with a huge map that has practically nothing in it. You're walking around. I'm pretty sure like one of the main focuses of the forest was like the exploration, and they've kind of just completely nullified that with the GPS function that they have in the game.
Yeah, there's like little points of interest to explore in, and caves. Have always been a big thing, but yeah, the inclusion of the GPS makes it pretty easy to just find those places without randomly stumbling on them.
Um, Fresh water everywhere, and some would argue that's like a quality of life adjustment, but like you're on an island. You, the water is not going to be fresh. Even if it's like fresh water, it's not going to be like potable. You're not going to be able to drink that water straight from the flipping river. You know, like you,
Hmm.
it's spoiler alert, especially with like the materials that you find in the caves. If those things are like reacting to people, and you're just drinking the water willy nilly, like wh- that's bad story design. That's bad world design. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about the end of the game, but it to me, Sons of the Forest looks like they watched. Correction, they skimmed through this series Lost, right? That TV show. It's like they skimmed through that and they're like, all right, let's turn that into a video game. And then they just kind of knocked it down a few pegs that way it fit in with the forest. And like they're like, oh, this is related. We've got this parallel universes. There's a don't get me wrong. There's a crap ton of lore for the Sons of the Forest, but it's like standing on stilts. It just needs one tiny blow, and then the whole thing comes crumbling down. Um, and I don't know. Like, I know it's in early access. It's not supposed to be in early access. They just kind of jumped to that. That way, they didn't have to finish the game on time, and that really bothers me. The crafting system is meh.
Yeah, it's I think it's similar to the first game. It's you just combine a bunch of stuff in your backpack and then click the little gear icon and bam, you got whatever. It's pretty much the same system as in the first game.
And then like this is probably another hot take. I don't like Vicky whatsoever. I think her animations look absolutely dumb. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that she has like an extra arm and she can hold two weapons. Whatever, sure. But like when you first meet Vicky, she like walks up to you and then like she tries to like walk back and like she does this really like weird shimmy animation and then she turns around and then you see that she has a double leg and then like it does her running animation doesn't make sense. Or there's like scenes where like there's a scene where you see like people change into the mutants and whatnot, and it's like people wearing like suits and ties and shit, and the next thing they're just these these gray blobs. Like that doesn't look good. That doesn't help portray your story if you're trying to get the story out. Like show them like in the blobs in the suits and then like ripping the suits off. Like it's basic story design, right? If you want to if you want to show somebody how it happens, then show it, but show it all the way. Or at least enough of the way where it makes sense. Don't take this cheapskate way out. It's like, "Oh, well, now they're monsters. Oops." It's like, "No, they were definitely wearing clothes. What happened to their clothes?"
Hmm.
Like that's the sort of thing that bothers me. Um I don't know. I'm sure this game is fun with friends. Most games are fun with friends, but I don't think that this could be a fun solo game. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't play the first game solo and I'm not playing this one solo. I'm playing with the same group of friends I played the first game with. That's
mm,
it's very much a lot fun, a lot more fun as a multiplayer game, definitely, because you get to build these massive bases and stuff and show it off and be like, "Oh, look at this," and work together to make these huge structures. It's a lot more fun if you play it that way rather than for the story.
yeah, yeah, and that to me, that's the disconnect, right? That you're playing a story-driven survival game, not for the story. It's like, oh, let's just ignore the story. Let's build a cool base, and then what is it, after like night 10 is when like the creatures actually start attacking your base,
Mm-hmm.
and like your walls go down in one hit. Your traps are practically useless. Doors are almost non-existent. The AI in the game, like unless you're in the final area, right? The AI for the most part, they'll leave you alone. You can just kind of walk around them and not hit them. And if like they do aggro on you, you could just walk away and they unaggro. And it's like, oh well, I'm gonna play this game as a pacifist. Like this, it's not good. This is most definitely an unfinished game that I don't think is worth $30. I don't even think for a friend playing experience that it's worth $30. If you're gonna release a game in early access and delay your development, you can't just cut the price in half of like a full AAA title game, right? This game isn't complete. It $15 I think is like the max that they should charge, and I think within the first 24 hours, this was like one of the most sold games on Steam of its release.
It broke Steam when it was released. Like, people couldn't buy it the day it released because Steam was having such a hard time processing all the orders and stuff.
That is 1 hour, Joe. Do I pay $30 to play for 2 hours? No. Don't. Honest opinion, don't pay for this game until it's fully released. This game is not worth playing yet. Don't. And this is just a personal opinion of mine, but don't pre-order games.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it, because you're paying for an unfinished game, and when the game comes out that you've pre-ordered and you've been waiting months and or years for, and it comes out and it's not finished, you're going to feel disappointed. Wait for the game to be fully released, for it to get a few updates, and for it to be fleshed out. And then you'll see the true reviews. You're not going to have these fucking review bombers who are either putting in stupid positive reviews that says like, oh, my fucking naked lady chased me. Good times.
It rained and I can see booba.
Do you believe they'll raise the price after early access? Probably not. I'm going to be honest. They're probably going to hold the $30 area the entire time. Which, if it for a full game, $30, that's acceptable. But this isn't a full game. This game isn't even close to being done. And the endings for this game are just as bad as the ending for Far Cry 5 if you've played that. In fact, I'd say that I like the endings for Far Cry 5 more, because at least those made more fucking sense than what the endings to this game did.
Yeah, and a lot of games that release in early access and give you like a little discount, like for example, Bannerlord, Mountain Blade Bannerlord actually gave you a discount for buying it in early access.
The crazy thing with Bannerlord, though, is that game had so much fucking content that you didn't fucking realize that it wasn't an early access game.
It was a full game in early access. It just had a lot of bugs. That's the only issue when it was in early access.
But... Yeah, and like they weren't even they didn't even have like a full release date out for Bannerlord at the time. They're like, yeah, we plan on dropping this game this year. Here it is, early access, because you have the previous games. Here's a huge fucking discount to play the new one. That's how early access is meant to happen, right? You've got the people who already love the series, you know that they have it in their library, and then you give those people a discount. Like, here's early access. The early access is normally $15, but because you have some of the games early, or all the games of the previous part of the series, you get it for $10. That's how you do it. And when they dropped it early access, it was damn near a complete fucking game. All they've done is bug fixed, added significantly more fucking content to the game that nobody was expecting, and then quality of life changes. That's it.
And it's fully released, and they're still adding shit to the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's a good developer. They've always been very good.
Got Bannerlord for the mods, still waiting. Okay, setting also. Yeah, yeah. The setting of Far Cry 5 is pretty good. Um, and we'll probably talk about games like Far Cry 5 in another series. I don't want to go too in depth on that. Far Cry
Yeah,
5 is a
RPG ish.
yeah, Far Cry 5 is a decent game, but its endings suck. Its storytelling is not that good. And then the
Mm,
excuse like the half sequel or whatever that like it's not a full game, it's almost a DLC. But like the sequel to Far Cry 5 also just not very good. But that's the developer thing. They always do that. It's weird. But anyways, Sons of the Forest. If you play it now and you're having a good time with it, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you can enjoy an unfinished game because I cannot.
it's yeah, I think a game like that is more of like a sandbox that you play with friends in. It's gives you a sort of high graphical fidelity kind of survival game if that's what you're looking for. And going back to like survival mechanics, you were talking about drinking water just straight from the river.
Mm-hmm.
There is a survival game, I haven't played it, called The Raft, where you're on a raft in the middle of the ocean and you have to boil your water to
Yeah,
drink it because it's salt
yeah.
water. And I think if they added that to the game, that would be pretty cool. I would actually like that. I think that would be cool.
Fallout
But
4, that's a wonderful example. Fallout 4 is it's like quasi survival because you've got like the base building in there. Um, and that's kind of cool. I personally am
mm,
not a huge fan of Fallout 4. I think it's kind of weird. Um, Same as like the base building in Skyrim is kind of weird, but I think Skyrim does it a little bit better.
yeah.
But you know, whatever. Somebody asked what a good survival game is. There isn't one. There is yet there, in my personal opinion, I have yet to play a good survival game. There's different types of survival games, and if we're talking like survival games like the Sons of the Forest, like this quasi zombie survival fucking bullshit, there's not a good one of those yet. I've yet to play a game that I enjoyed that's zombie survival.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to nail down, honestly, because I don't know. It's a difficult
Risk of Rain 2
genre.
is not a survival game, that's a roguelite.
True. Yeah, that's a wave survival, I guess, technically, but I don't know. I wouldn't consider that in at least in the same genre we're talking about right now.
um, but yeah, uh, you know, I think Sons of the Forest does a better job than like Miscreated, but
Uh,
I feel like Miscreated does a better job at being a game than Sons of the Forest does,
hmm.
if that makes sense. Um, but I don't know. I probably won't play the Sons of the Forest. I've watched people play it. It looks empty. They made the world significantly bigger, and it's pretty flippin' empty. And it's just not for me. I'd much rather play a game that has crafting in it rather than a crafting game that has story in it. Like Tomb Raider, for example. Where you go around hunt animals and shit like that for your bows and whatnot, whatever the fuck. So that's my take. Could be somewhat of a hot take. Don't buy the game unless you're trying to play with friends and are going to ignore the story because the
Yeah.
story is not there.
Yeah, I think if you have a group of people who all want to play it together, then it's definitely worth a look because it's a lot of fun if you have people to play it with. But if you just want to play a solo survival, there are better games out there.
I'm going to jump right into Rust. I can't stand Rust, and it's not because of the game. It's because of the community. They're it's just a community full of trolls, right? Like if you go in and you have a personal Rust server, whatever, like you're gonna have a good time. But like if you join like a public server or whatever, it's awful. You're just gonna get manhunted the entire time. Someone's gonna base camp you, and it's just not fun. The crafting menu is kind of convoluted. I don't even. The point of being naked, like that's turned into a meme. I don't know. Rust has become a meme game, in my opinion. And it's just, I have it. I've played it. I wasn't a huge fan.
I've never played it, but I gotta say, I genuinely enjoy watching people build like trap bases and raiding in other people's bases and doing all this wild stuff. I I enjoy the community content, but I have never played it, so I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't think.
All fun and games until somebody traps your base, right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the fact that you have to play on a server. Do you have to play on a server? I actually don't know.
I think there is an offline mode. I think they might have added an offline mode,
But yeah, the fact that you usually play it online with a ton of random people just makes me nervous because sometimes I don't want to play the game every day, and I feel like if I leave the game for like a couple days or whatever,
your base
all
gets
my
raided.
stuff is going to be gone. Yeah.
Yep. This is so weird that I'm making this like connection, but like Minecraft servers have better base management than like most of these online survival games do. It's like, oh yeah, claim this plot of land from this point to this point. People that aren't in your clan can't go in here. It's like if you didn't give them permission, they can't go in there. It's like, and if you join a clan, then you are able to be raided from this point to this point of the day. That way, you know at least what time to be on to expect something.
Yeah, I multiplayer in Minecraft is kind of crazy sometimes. Like they do some really cool stuff with mods and like little server side things.
Um, this is kind of just a poke at a lot of the survival games out there right now. Why do all of these games look so fucking bad? Like they're like, oh, we've got too much crafting, so we're gonna have to just take away our budget from the design department. Like, Rust looks awful.
Oh,
Ark
yeah.
Survival
Well,
looks bad. And like they're unoptimized.
Daisy also looks pretty poo.
Miscreated is not a good-looking game. What else do I have on here? Satisfactory does look pretty good.
Ark, it's okay.
For as long as it's been out and like all the content that they've released, that game is super unoptimized.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue. Like, it looks better than the average survival game, but you have to have a cutting-edge computer to even like get frames above 60 in that game.
You need a quantum computer to get frames above 60 in that game. You'd have a 4090 and that thing would be running at 90%, dude.
We're talking about Ark right now.
Yeah.
I've never, again, another survival game I never really played, but I heard a lot of good things about it. I still don't quite understand what it's about because I see dinosaurs, then I see like sci-fi shit, and I'm like, what's going on?
All right, you want me to explain the storyline to you?
Sure.
Okay, real easy. You know how I said Sons of the Forest was like they skimmed over the movie series Lost?
Yeah.
Ark, but with dinosaurs.
Hmm.
Practically the same shit. The difference is that the crafting in Ark, correction, there isn't a huge amount of story in Ark. Is there a story? Yes. Is that the main focus of Ark? No. The main focus of Ark is to build a base and to survive as long as you can and building up your shit, like taming dinos or whatever the fuck, all right? That's the main point of Ark. And it is, with friends, genuinely fun. I don't recommend the game by yourself because it's just really fucking tedious at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be enjoyable solo. But for the most part, it's not a it's a fun game if you're playing with people. It's fun to like tame dinosaurs and shit and learning about that sort of thing and figuring out like what the hell's going on around you. But yeah, I think it suffers from a lot of the same shit that Sons of the Forest does. It's a super buggy game. I think it's still in early access. Like, I don't think that game's ever come out of early access.
Yeah, I feel like that was the same with the first, the Forest. The Forest was in early access for forever.
Yeah, 5 years, was it?
Yeah, yeah, just about, I think.
So, like,
Yeah, a lot of these, that's a common thing with these indie survival games, at least the ones that get somewhat popular. They, they're always in early access for a ridiculous amount of time.
this is how it's supposed to go. You've got alpha. All right. When people play your game in alpha, they're expecting a not so great experience, but still looking to have a somewhat good time playing your unfinished game. And that's a closed community, right? And you can do that years in advance of the game release, okay? And then you have beta. Your beta testing is supposed to be done a year to a couple months in advance before the release of the game. Early access shouldn't be done earlier than, I would say, 6 months. If you do a year's worth of early access, you fucked up. You're just trying to get people to pay for a game that's not complete, and you're looking for funding to get the game complete, right? Bannerlord, we'll go back to Bannerlord. Dylan, do you remember how long Bannerlord was in early access?
It couldn't have been a year. I don't think it was that long.
I think it was 4 months.
Yeah,
I'm almost positive.
It wasn't very long at all. I remember playing through the whole game for like the first month it released. I played through it all the way, built up like my own kingdom or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I stopped playing because I was kind of done with the content at that time. And then like I checked back in the game a couple months later and oh, we're almost released. I'm like, oh.
Yep. It's like, here's all this new shit that we dropped. And of course, Bannerlord isn't a survival game in the same sense. It's more like a kingdom building game. Like, I don't know, country management, I guess, would be what I'd classify it as. You could always have a Blizzard situation. Are you talking about like Overwatch?
Like Blizzard, the game dev?
Yeah. I'm not sure what they mean. I could be unsavvy to that information. Anything they release. I don't know. I feel like Overwatch wasn't in early access for too long. They had their alpha, they had their beta, and then they dropped it. The problem with games like Overwatch and shit like that is like they'll just keep developing for the game instead of optimizing the play style, which is like it's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, game as a service, I think, is what they call those types of games.
Yeah, but PvP games like that are just weird. Didn't character. That's a whole nother thing. That's
a huge pile of drama there. Out of a string of drama that came out of that.
Yeah.
That game development studio. So.
But yeah, there's a right and wrong way to do early access, and a lot of these survival games, in my opinion, if you're sitting in early access for like years at a time, why even release it? I mean, I know why they do it. They're corporations. They want money.
Yeah, they need money to pay their developers to continue making the game. I mean, most of these games don't have a publisher funding them, so they have to make money somehow.
But to me, that's the wrong way to go about it. Honest, don't sit in early access for 5 years. You know, if you drop it in early access, that gives you 6 months to get something out that you would call a full game, and then continue developing it after it's been released. That's okay. You can do that. But a
Mhm.
lot of these times, these developers, they'll just sit in early access for like 5+ years and not really do anything to the game. Like, I think when The Forest was finally complete, nothing truly had changed besides like bug fixes. There was a little extra content added, but in
Yeah.
reality, not a whole lot had changed.
Yeah, I think one of the latest things they added before they were done with the game was like a log sled that you can carry a bunch of logs in and move around and stuff. Made it a lot easier. That's something that's not in Sons of the Forest, and it is sorely needed because that is a very useful
Oh, you tell me
tool.
you don't like carrying one log at a time from
You can
miles
carry
away?
two. You can carry two, but two is definitely not enough to build a house because, like I said, it took me 200 logs to build my first house.
Well, don't
I built
worry.
a very large house, but
Don't
it's
worry.
a
You can just put your logs to the ground and never see them again.
they yeah, and the log carriers that you can build that store your logs in because
Mm.
they'll despawn once you leave the game
Oh my
if you leave
lord.
them on the ground. At least they did for me. And because I had a big pile right in front of my house because I was super tired, so I just went to sleep thinking that my logs would still be there. They were not.
I bet that's
Um,
part of the fucking content reset. You know what I was talking about? You find some ammo, pitch a tent, sleep, reload, and the ammo's there again.
yeah,
I think that's part of that system.
I think they knew that stuff was clipping through the bottom of the world because like there's a flashlight I was supposed to get off of the body of one of the people who came to the island with you, and it didn't spawn for me, so
Hmm.
I had to reload and do that trick that you just mentioned to get it because that's some pretty important piece of equipment that only spawns there. So
Don't use the flashlight. Just use your electric lighter. That never seems to run out of the charge for
yeah,
the weeks that you're on the island.
I when I explore the caves in there, I just bring an insane amount of flares and just toss flares all over the place. But yeah, it's buggy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a decently good game. I love Satisfactory. I can play that game by myself. And I don't know if you've played it before, Dylan,
I have not.
but practically the basis of the game, you land on a planet and like, yo, we need to mine all these resources on this planet. And the whole point of the game is to just build the most efficient factory that you can, which is why it's called Satisfactory. Build a factory until you're satisfied. And that's the point of the game. There's not a huge amount of story to it. There's a couple of hostile animals in there, but you can make weapons and craft buildings and bases and shit. It's a fun game. And it's true to its word. You go, you build, you enjoy. That's it.
Mhm.
And it looks nice. It's a very pretty game. It's not over convoluted with shit. It doesn't have like this we gotta have an intricate mind to figure out what the story's trying to tell you. Nothing like that. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but I just feel like that's done wrong a lot of the times in games that are like trying to be deep.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Satisfactory is a fun game. It's way more fun with friends too.
Yeah, I've seen people make some super intricate like factories automating like all these different things. And it looks pretty interesting, fun and unique. A very unique
Mm-hmm.
spin on the survival formula really.
Yeah, that's to me. If I had to say that a good survival game, that one's probably it. Like it's not zombie related. They're not trying to do anything crazy with it. They're just like mine planet for resources. That's your goal. Done. They did it well. The game looks good. It was in early access. I think maybe a year, but when it was in early access, there was still a shit ton of shit to do. It wasn't
Mm.
bare bones. Um, so I don't know. I think they did. I think they have the formula right. At least they got as close to the formula to being right as they could. Um, I don't have too much to say about Satisfactory. Just build shit, build conveyor belts, build oil rigs. It's fucking fun.
Mm. And talking about fun survival games, this is more of like a colony survival game. You're not really playing a single character,
Mm.
technically. Um, it came out a while ago. It was called Frostpunk. I don't remember if you remember that,
I remember Frostpunk.
but it's set in like we're going through another ice age, and you're just trying to. You're like the last vestige of humanity, and you're trying to survive
Mm.
in this frozen wasteland. And it is a very fun colony survival. It's very story focused. I think they eventually added a
They
survival, just survive as long as you can
Yeah, they definitely
game
added some
mode.
of that.
But it's very fun. I think they did a lot of things right with that game because you're fighting the temperature, you're fighting for resources because you have to have fuel for your generator to keep everyone warm,
Mm.
and then like you're constantly expanding because your population is growing either through finding survivors or people having kids and stuff,
Yeah.
and it is really cool. And I think it also has like some politics mixed in a little bit because you can like have child workers if you want and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
And it's it's a very good colony survival game. If you haven't played it before, I highly recommend that game. It is very good, and there are hundreds of different ways you can run your colony successfully. You can you can be a very totalitarian dictator kind of guy who forces children to work in the factories, and or you can be super religious and try and keep the peace through religious motivation and things like that. It's very very good.
I think another good colony sim would be Planet Base, where you unlock planets as you play through the game, and like the whole point is just to build a colony on said planet, and it's super fun.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah,
Planet
yeah.
Base.
Colony Survivals is also a popular survival game type, but there's a lot out there,
Yeah.
and a few that are
Um,
pretty good.
I haven't played Raft. I think it's funny to watch people play Raft and like try to build like stupid shit. Like I
Yeah.
watched this guy like make this raft that was like so large. He's like, "Oh, look what I can do with the boards. I can just walk on the boards underwater and get to all the like game breaking rafts, you know."
Mm.
That shit's funny to me, but personally, no, I don't think the raft is meant for me. I've seen the end
Yeah,
game. I've seen the gameplay, like normal gameplay. Eh.
it looks very boring, honestly. Uh,
Water.
cause yeah, cause it's just ocean, and maybe you'll see little islands, maybe you'll see abandoned rafts, and that's it. You know, it's you gotta really enjoy building a raft, I think, to enjoy that game.
I think what would really spice it up for me is if it had like a Sea of Thieves thing to it. Like you could run into other people, like it was like server based rather than like local,
Hmm.
and like you saw other people's rafts and like you had the chance to like attack or attach, you know, whatever the fuck that you want to do, and explore the world together and like find islands and resources, like build, you know, just do a water world type thing. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that would be cool.
the cigarettes don't make sense in the movie, but you know, besides that,
Hmm. Yeah,
I yeah,
I think if they just added more things to do in that game, it would be better. Because basically, all you do is survive and build. There's
one
nothing
shark
else.
that
No
follows
other
you
objectives.
everywhere.
Yeah, It's I do like some of the survival mechanics though, like the boiling the water to drink it,
Oh
and the
yeah.
fact that like birds will try to eat your plants when you're growing them and stuff. I think that those little systems are pretty cool.
Yeah, I think if you want like a cool survival game that's based in the water, play Subnautica. But if
Yes,
you're like me
yes.
and you don't like deep water and shit, then you're fucked.
Yeah, Subnautica is definitely not for people who are afraid of deep water and giant fish that can swallow you whole
I
in the deep sea.
Yeah, I like the concept of Subnautica. And Subnautica does have a story. It's not a huge one, but it does have a story. But I really like the fact that it's not just like one hostile creature trying to attack you. Like you can explore through the ocean. Like, oh shit, this is kind of dope. It to me the raft would be significantly better if like it wasn't just a shark following you, but like
Hmm.
every now and then sharks or orcas, or like while you're swimming around you notice that there are hostile eels or whatever the fuck. Just anything that would give it more. But that game is done. They've stopped development on the raft. um I don't know. It's it's not a bad game, the raft. It's definitely not a game for me.
Yeah, it's good at what it does, but that's if you like what it does. It doesn't have much else to do outside of a few core concepts.
um let's let's get right down to the biscuits and gravy of this. The survival game that we've kind of been playing, this sandbox survival game, Vintage Story. This game is I don't know, what, a year into development, 2 years into development.
I think so. I don't know much about the history of the game actually.
But Vintage Story, it's Minecraft practically. I mean, the people who developed the game were modders for Minecraft, and like, we can't do enough in Minecraft, so we're gonna make our own game. They made Vintage Story, and it's not an easy game in the slightest. Like,
Hmm.
resource management is huge, um, and chopping trees is tedious, and making charcoal is tedious. But you feel rewarded for doing all that stuff. Like you're like, oh, okay, I've just chopped down. Now I've got this charcoal. Now I can use my charcoal to smelt pottery or to melt down ingots. Um, there's still some things that I think need improvement on the game, but the game is, being solo developed. It's not even by like an actual studio, just some dudes who wanted to make their own game. And for that, I think it's not like it's an incomplete game. It is. I'd say it's damn near close to being a done game. They're
Hmm.
just adding quality of life stuff, and they're doing story now. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and the story in Vintage Story is and has always been completely optional. Um, like right now, currently in 1.17, most of the story is gotten through like little slips of paper and some tapestries and stuff you can find in ruins,
yep.
and it's just like little blurbs about like what happened to the people and why they're gone, they're no longer around and stuff like that. But they're going to be adding in the next update a lot more story related stuff. Um, Again, completely optional. You don't have to do it. You don't have to mess with the story at all. But they're making it more stuff to do involving the story.
Yeah.
Is their plan right now?
Um, and it's a fun game. Like, if you like genuine resource management and the ability to make a base and defend said base and like farming and shit like that, Vintage Story is definitely a way to go. Like, if you think Minecraft isn't hard enough, definitely recommend Vintage Story.
Yes. Yeah. If you want a game that is plays in a similar way to Minecraft, but has a lot more intense survival mechanics, and you got to really work a lot more for your resources. Then Vintage Story is definitely a game you should look into. It's not on like Steam or any game launcher. They have their own website, and
Yeah.
that's where you have to get it from.
You could also buy it from the Humble Bundle store.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, my biggest gripe with it right now is mining. Like
Yeah.
getting resources through mining is not so great. And their method of like finding ore is also kind of crappy, but for the most part you can find a lot of resources without having to do like strip mining. You can just find random caves and then they're there. So that's
what I usually do.
yeah, that's the thing. I think that can be improved on, but it's a really fun game.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I made a server for Dylan and I. And I don't know, the very first time we played together, it was a fucking shit show. I ruined everything trying to learn like the server commands and stuff like that. And like we didn't get very far. And then like the next day or like 2 days later, they dropped a new update for it. Like, okay. And like the moment that we get into this new world, we're like, all right, we already know what to do. Like once you find that rhythm, like shit starts just clicking a whole lot better.
Yeah, it still took a while for us to get the food situation really handled. We were kind of struggling a little bit, starving a little bit for a little bit. But once the farm pops off, you're good.
Oh yeah.
You have food for months. Like you just gotta pickle that stuff in some barrels, and you're good. You're good to go for the winter.
Yeah. Wolves, though.
Yeah. That's I think every week in game, wolves and bears respawn in like the forest areas around you and stuff, and they are very annoying to fight because in this game, predators like wolves and bears, they move to where the food is. So if there's no like rabbits for them to kill in the forest, or sheep or whatever, they'll move to like closer to around your farm and stuff where you have sheep domesticated in your like fences, and they'll just like run around your base and attack you as soon as you leave in the morning, and it's
yeah.
And they're tough. They will hurt. They are not like little annoyances. They can definitely ruin your day pretty easily.
Yeah, and item durability is this is somewhat of a gripe. I think item durability is a little too low.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially like with the like our metal stuff, you know, those break pretty quick.
Yeah, you'd think it would last a bit longer. Like even the more advanced tools tend to break pretty easily.
Yeah, so that's just a quality of life thing. But like it's not like it's hard to make more, as long as you've like done your resource management correctly.
Yeah.
I think the one cool thing, like even if you don't care about the story of Vintage Story, it still kind of like makes you wonder about what's going on in the world because of the temporal storm. That shit is the most annoying fucking thing.
Yeah. I think it doesn't help that you can't sleep through it, so you have to just wait it out.
And if like your livestock aren't like protected completely, like they'll attack your livestock. Or if you built your house wrong, or it's not like well lit enough, they'll just spawn in your fucking house. Like, oh, that's awful.
Yeah. And it doesn't spawn like the normal easy to kill ones that normally spawn at like night or whatever. No, they spawn like the really tough bastards that you don't see until you like dig to the center of the earth. You know, those guys, they hurt. They will swipe you once and that's all your health. You're dead.
Yep. But it's a fun game. As long as you like that sort of thing, that's a fun game. Oh, I am hurting bad. I'm still recovering from my surgery, and my shoulder's starting to bother me. So I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Um, Once again, Tuesdays and Saturdays is when our normal streams are. We'll probably be adjusting our times. That way, we're not stepping on our community partners' toes. They're adjusting their schedule. That way, they can have more breathing room to get stuff done. So be on the lookout for that. We'll make sure that's well communicated, and I'll adjust the schedule here on stream, on Twitch. Tonight, we will be doing some reaction stuff. I'm gonna get a list of videos queued up, and we're gonna do that probably around, I don't know, 6:30, 7 p.m. I think would be a good time. And so you'll get to see Dylan and I react to stuff. If I do funny stuff, then you'll also get to hear me cry, because if I'm genuinely laughing, it's gonna be painful.
Yep. Cry and make sure there's no bleeding or anything.
Yeah. That would suck so hard. Oh, no way. All right, we're going to raid a person who goes by the name Addy Stripes. They're playing Pokemon Emerald.
Huh. Bit of an older Pokemon game. It's a good one.
It's my favorite Pokemon game. So, stick around for a little bit. Say hi. It means a lot to me when you do. Make sure you click over to their channel. That way it gives them the genuine views. I really appreciate it. And bye.
See you.